So right now we are going to create our first file in the JavaScript folder. We will create the index.js, and we have also another one. Actually, we have to use it, so we will use the utils.js. So the second one is right here is for the utility functions. I'm going to create all my functions and I will import it inside the index.js. So first function, we will start with the preload image. So we are going to use the images loaded. So what we're gonna do is first create a function. We will name it preload images. We'll use the selector and what we're gonna have so far. Okay, it will return promise resolve images loaded documents dot query selector. Actually, we will use the all the selector the background true, and it will resolve. So guys, let me explain what I just did right now. Fixed the new promise constructor to create a new promise. So guys, let me explain what I just did in this code. So guys, as I told you, that this function, it will return a promise. So guys, for this line, inside the promises function, we use the image loaded library to preload images. So here is what's happening in this line. So the document query selector all, so this part selects all the HTML elements that match this selector. So guys, the selector variable determines which elements to select. The default value is image, so if no selector is provided, it will select all image elements on the page. So for the background true, this is an option for this background. So this is an option object passed to images loaded. It specifies that the image should be preloaded in the background. And one last thing, which is the resolve. So this is the function that will be called when all the selected images are successfully loaded. So when you call the preload images, it returns a promise that the preloads the images specified by the selector. I'm talking about the image in the background. Once all the images are loaded, the promise resolves to handle successful completion of the preloading process. So we have a actually guys, we have okay, everything is okay, everything is clear. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is to create our grid, get grid. We are going to use a helper function that lets us dynamically figure out a grids, row and columns, as well as further refine those with odd or even ones. Okay, so grid get, we will name it get grid, and of course we have a selector element. Right here we will use, of course, the GSAP utils to array selector. We will use also the bounds subset dimensions finally merge. Let A is equal to So what we have right here, it's a it converts the selected element into an array of elements using the GSAP utils to array function. So next we have bounds. So this variable is used to store the bounding rectangles of the selected elements. For the next one, this is a helper function defined inside getGrid. So it is used to group elements based on their positions and dimensions and return subset of elements. So guys, I'm going to talk about the elements refresh. So this function is added to the elements array. So when called, it refreshes the bounds variable by calculating the bounding rectangle of all elements. So for the elements, columns and rows, so these functions are added to the elements array. So they are used to retrieve subsets of elements organized in columns or a row based on their positions and dimensions. They can also take optional parameters to specify whether to include even or odd elements and whether to merge these subsets into a single array. For the last one, this is the element refresh. So this line immediately calculates the bounding rectangles of all elements when the getGrid function is called. So what we are and one last thing, this is, guys, we just exported the preload images and the getGrid function, and that's it. So what we're gonna do right now, alright guys, so let's go back to our utils. So we have to fix some things. So we have right here the selector. I missed the E right here. Alright guys, so what we're gonna do right now is to go to our index.js and import the necessary function for preloading image. So what we're gonna do is to import, and we're gonna use these two functions. I'm going to copy and paste them, and we're gonna use utils.js. So what we're gonna do next is to select or to declare our linens. So what we're gonna do is to declare them after we defined the variable that will store the linens smooth scrolling object. So we are going to work on the function to initialize linens for smooth scrolling. So init smooth scrolling, there is no parameter, and the new linens to linens, and use. So first thing first, we are going to instantiate the linens object with specified properties using the this one. So what we're gonna do next is to lower the lower values create a smooth scroll effect. So what we're gonna do right now is work on the linear interpolation. So this is a parameter for linens. Guys, if this is your first time, it's gonna be pretty good and you will love it so much. We will use the lerp and we're gonna give it a 0.1, and we're gonna use the smooth wheel to true. This line, the smooth wheel, it enables a smooth scrolling for mouse wheels. So right now, after we finished our right now we are going to update the scroll trigger each time the user scrolls. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna code the linens on scroll. This is our event. So it will activate a function. This one is the scroll trigger. update. Next, we are going to define a function to run at each animation frame. So we're gonna name our function the scroll fn const so our parameter is the time is time. So this line run Linus request animation frame method. So the next one to recursively calls the scroll function on each frame. So we're gonna use what we're gonna use next is the request animation frame, and we're gonna use the scroll function. It will call the scroll function. Okay, so I think right now our scroll function is okay. So what we're gonna do next to start the animation frame loop, so we're gonna request animation frame and it will call the scroll function. All right guys, and we ended the initiation of our Linus. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna declare a variable. We will name it grids, and what it will assign to it is all elements with the class grid. So we will use the document query selector all and grid. Okay, so right now I think that we are ready to create our function. We will apply a function scroll triggered animation to our given gallery. Alright guys, so right now I'm going to create the function to apply a scroll trigger animation to a given gallery. So what I'm gonna do right now is to code with a time lapse, then I will explain line by line why I did this.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, so we finished our apply animation. So as I told you guys, what we just did is create a function to apply a scroll trigger animations to a given gallery. So what we just did right here is creating the child elements of grid, and right here this part we defined the GSAP timeline with a scroll trigger. Then we apply a different animations based on the type of each grid. So the type of each animation, I mean. So guys, before we go, so this one is, as you can see right here guys, we set some custom properties, CSS properties to our grid, and what we just did is creating our timeline right here, and we set, and also we used the from-to, and also guys we used the case function, the case and break also. So as you can see right here guys, we used 6 types. So each type have their animation. So there is a type 3, type 4, type 5 and a type 6. So guys, we have also another problem, so we have to focus on something. So as you can see right here, this is a Linus. We need the L with the uppercase to call the Linus, this function from this library. All right guys, so what we're gonna do next is to apply the animation that we just created right now in the case, using the case and break. So we will use it again inside our function. So we will name this function scroll const scroll equal to, we don't have a parameter. Okay, so the grid and the we set the parameters, and right now let's first of all we will determine the animation type. So one thing that we need to do is to declare a variable. We will call it animation type. All right, and we will use type switch and 6 from I to 6. There is 6 cases. We will start from the 0 anime type break. So guys, we will copy and paste each case and we will change the number. All right. All right. Okay, I think that we have 6 cases or 5. Okay, so we will create for the case, the first case type 1, we will use for the second one type 2, type 3, type 4, 5 and 6. And also one last thing, we will apply animation. Use the first one, and the first parameter is the grid, and the second one we will apply the animation type. Okay, so what we have next, we will preload images and initialize the smooth scrolling. Also, we will apply the scroll triggered animations, and that's it. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is to use the preload images, the grid, okay, so we will have a function and it will initiate the smooth scrolling. We will call the first function and we'll use the scroll function also, and I think that's it. Alright guys, I think everything is on point right now. I hope we don't face any problem. Alright, I think I missed something, so we will use the uppercase for the scroll. We will call our scroll, and guys, finally we made it to the end. Of course guys, I'm so happy that everything is working correctly. I think all of these animations is working. Guys, finally we ended this amazing masterpiece. Guys, of course you can play with the animation, you can what you can do also, you can play with all of these animations. Guys, look how many, and you can change the rotation from Y, I don't know, maybe you will use 50 or something like that. Guys, you have the custom properties and stuffs like that. This is a masterpiece, okay? And all I want from you guys is to make it as an inspiration and work more on it. So guys, I hope you like and loved this tutorial. I think everything is okay, and what we have right here is a masterpiece again, guys. So I think it deserves a subscribe and a like. So thank you again, and see you in another amazing video, guys. Peace.